Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone today, presented by International Market Centers. IMC is the parent company for our gift and home markets, which include the Atlanta market, IMC High Point market, or Design on High Point market, the Las Vegas market, and our digital Juniper market. I'm Kimberly Porter, the Senior Programming Manager for IMC. Market Insights is our monthly webinar series, which is an extension of our on-site and virtual programming for IMC. And we are returning to on-site events this summer. So please be checking our website to see those updated listings. We have Market, which is later this month, and Vegas Market, which is in August. And again, High Point, which is in October. Today's presentation is Market Insights, Designing and Sourcing, What's Next in 2021. We have Andre, Ari, DuVäl, Bregan, and Krissa Rosman as our moderator. This is presented by IMC in partnership with the Black Interior Designers Network and Traditional Home Magazine. Just a few pointers. If you want more information about other CEU opportunities, upcoming webinars or seminars on site, open showrooms, and other resources, please check out our website. This is CEU accredited, and that information will be emailed out to you following the presentation in a day or so. We also will have a small time for question and answers, so if you have any questions that you want to ask our designers, please put that in the chat or on the Q&A tab and we'll get to those. And Krissa, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate the invitation and partnering with IMC and the Black Interior Design Network. And I'm thrilled to have these four panelists today, Bregan, DuVäl, Ari, and Andre. So thank you all for your time this afternoon and morning, depending on where you're located. And we're gonna have a really great discussion today. I know, obviously, it goes without saying that the past year has presented so many challenges. And one of the main ones, of course, has to do with sourcing. People are without products, people are without lumber, they're without cars. I'm in the market for a car, can't get one. So there are so many pieces that we've had to live without over the past year. And it's difficult. And it's taught us lessons in patience and how much impatience we have sometimes. So we're here to talk about that today as it connects to the design industry and clients who are probably hounding you for stuff for their homes. So I want to start by having each of you, because we intentionally have different regions going on here throughout the country. So if you could each start by introducing yourself, telling the audience where you're from and where your business is headquartered, and kind of, what's going on there. What does that picture look like in your region when it comes to housing, design? Where are we at? Bregan, you're first on my screen.
All right.
So you. Welcome.
Well, hello, and hello everyone. So I'm a beach girl. My business is located in Santa Monica. I was born a Cali girl. So we are really doing a lot of indoor, outdoor living, and we can year round. And so that's one of the advantages here. And I think our West Coast is sort of representing a lot of the possibilities when it comes to expanding our spaces outdoor and including nature. And I'm proud of that.
Ari, next. Let's cover you next.
Hey everybody, I'm Arianne Bellizaire. I'm based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, so far away from my friend Bregan, but we are representing and holding down the South part of the country. Louisiana is still very traditional. We love to gather and entertain. We are also thinking about and exploring indoor outdoor, but because of our humidity, we have to be really creative with how we create that transition in those spaces. For us, we have seen a big uptick in new construction projects and renovations. People are either staying where they are and making it their forever home, or they are taking the leap and building new homes in some of the developments that are coming up that offer more amenities like master planned communities or the conveniences of things like shopping in stores. So it's really kind of cool to see that change in how people are thinking about the way that they're living and how they want to live in their home. And we're just happy to be along for the ride.
Great, thank you. DuVäl.
Hey guys, my name is DuVäl. I'm based in Fairfax, Virginia, just outside of the DC metro area. So we are holding down the East Coast, so the upper portion, let's say. And for us, most of the work I'm seeing is a lot of new builds, a lot of renovations, just like Ari's seeing. I think we're holding down mostly transitional designs. Not everyone's too traditional, not everyone's too coastal and too modern. So we see a lot of transitional out here. But because we are such a diverse community, we do have pockets in each areas, different counties, different parts of other states will all have different looks. So I think for us, we have the whole gamut of it. Oh, also happy to be here, by the way.
Oh, and we're happy to have you. Thank you so much. Andre?
Hi guys, my name is Jordan Hilton. I am owner of Jordan Hilton Interiors here in the illustrious Atlanta, Georgia. We are holding it down for the East Coast, down on the South. But some of the things that are happening here, as you know, the pandemic hit and everyone from up north started trafficking down to the South, primarily Atlanta, because we were open first and people really got to see the city and really get into the community and the culture of, you know, what Atlanta has here. So during that time, a lot of people were home, wanted to get their houses done. So there's been lots and lots of renovations and home design, and people are sitting at home just trying to figure out what to do next. Everyone's bored and didn't realize how much they kind of hate their spaces until they have to be there all day. So it has been extremely busy for us. Atlanta has been built up times 10 from what it was years ago. So buildings are going up left and right, and the need and the desire for interior designers are out of this world right now. So yeah, it's a lot of business happening here. I'm super excited about it and ready to see what happens next.
Several of you mentioned new builds, and we know that there are really historically low interest rates happening throughout this country. There's also a lumber shortage that has proved to be problematic for this industry. Before the pandemic, I know that all of you have had different relationships with your clients, some who are very educated and engaged in the design process, and then maybe those who are novices to this whole industry and don't know a whole lot. How has the pandemic changed with their level of engagement, being forced to be at home, being forced to live at home 24/7, being forced to cook every single meal at home? How has that changed? Or do any of you have an example of a client who maybe before pandemic wasn't as interested in some of the details, but now has really become so because they're interested in the functionality that they all of a sudden realized wasn't working before? And I'll just let one of you jump in and then we'll go around.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I had to jump in on that one first.
Go for it. Go for it.
Usually my clients are like super consumed with work, type A, want to get up, get things done, and they're off, and I typically have the whole place to myself. Since the pandemic has come into play, like you said, they're home all of the time, and now it's like, okay, well, what else can I do? Sometimes they don't feel as useful anymore because they're not walking in offices every day, and a lot of them just can't sit still, so they try to do my job too, or at least help. So I say, I always call them my assistants now because they're always tuning in or sending me pictures or, making quick little phone calls, just to kind of help me out, because they know as designers during this time, we are super, super busy, busier than ever. And, so I appreciate, the text messages and, sending inspirational photos. They're on Pinterest. They're looking at traditional home magazines, sending me photos. Oh my God, have you seen this? What's this? Tell me about this. They want to know. So it's our job to, like you say, be informative as their designers so that they understand, our process a little bit better. I think it was actually a good thing for us, so that they got to see that our job is not as easy as it may look to them. And a lot of times they get tired out before I'm tired. I'm like, see, you thought that this was just a piece of cake, right? So
I love that point.
You?
No, I just love that point so much, Andre, because I always think about what's changing in interiors, but you're so right. The client is way more involved than they used to be. Even some of my same clients that I've had forever, they just have more time. They realize that their space is such an emotional extension of them. I no longer see people like giving me their keys and walking away. They want to be a part of that process now that everybody spends so much time at home. But also interesting things I've done is like cut off interior space to an office and created an exterior door to kind of separate work from life, you know? So there's a lot of interesting things that are happening that I didn't think I would do pre-pandemic.
I think for me, my clients are a little bit of a hybrid. So I feel like Andre and Bregan, they are a little bit more engaged, but I find that it's that their ear is tuned into what I'm actually trying to teach them about the power of their home. Whereas before they were a little bit more focused on what it looked like. So now that they've been trapped at home, when I'm talking about really paying attention to the types of materials we're bringing in and how it's made and constructed and how that could impact your health, you know, how we talk about the way rooms flow. Can we close doors and have a Zoom meeting, or is it an open concept? Do we need to add walls? I think they're a little bit more excited about what I can bring from an expertise and knowledge perspective, and it's building my value. So I find that the gift of the pandemic is that where people saw what we do as more of an aesthetic improvement and almost superficial, they're really understanding that we are helping them create basically their oasis. And I use this joke with my clients, especially with new construction projects, and they laugh, but it's true. I'm like, let's design this home so that you'll love it if you have to be trapped there for 8 months. Let's think about what you would want and need, the rooms, the kids, the work. And it's powerful to say, because everybody can relate to that. The gift of the pandemic was that it was the great equalizer. We all were experiencing the same thing in the world at the same time. And that does not happen often. So when we reference that in our discussions about how to lay out a home or bring in materials, they can understand what that means. And it brings value to our industry and us as designers because we are guiding them through that process.
DuVäl, do you have anything to add?
Sure. So Andre and Bregan must be a lot nicer to their clients than I am. So let's start there. So first off, I am not all for an active client. I am not. So
fair enough.
Yeah, when a client is getting too involved, for me, it gets in the way of my processes. So our process is to come in with 0 and go to 100 and complete the work. When they do that, for us, it just kind of sets us back. And because there are already delays, now I have an additional delay to get another item or change a product, etc. So I think I'm glad they can be nicer to their people. I'll work on it. But I also found that the clients now are telling me more of what they don't want in their house than they were before. Usually it was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. Now it's coming into like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like that. And if we can resolve the issues and create solutions for them, I find that they're so much more confident in us just finishing the project for them versus.
DuVäl, can you give an example of when they say they don't want something, what that would sound like?
Yeah, I mean, well, anger firstly, and then a lot of emotions. But I mean, even say for kitchen design, you know, when they're working in their kitchen and now they're having to cook every day, how far the fridge is from the sink or how large the fridge is. I have one client in particular right now. The fridge just sticks out too far. He doesn't like how deep it is out from the cabinetry. They don't like how small the island is because they're finding that now everybody's gathering there. So it's all these little things that they're noticing day by day. And then when you think of furniture, how good is the performance fabric, or why does this color, I find that food keeps dropping on it and I notice it all the time. So I see it everywhere at this point.
Great. I want each of you to address 2 specific spaces that have become high on the priority list during the pandemic. One is the home office. I want to talk about this because do we keep these spaces? Do we get rid of them now that people are going back to work? I know we don't get rid of them, but what were people looking for as the pandemic first hit, and what are they thinking about long-term about how this space needs to work? And I say home office, but oftentimes there's more than one person living in that house, right? So what does that mean as far as workspaces? You know, kids hopefully will be back in school full-time forever now, not just temporarily, since that's where they need to be. But how does the home office function? And then the second question I have is about that kitchen, because you know, again, all of a sudden people were forced to cook every meal, have that space function for all intents and purposes, 21 meals a week. And before, you know, people were used to dining out some, getting some pickup, cooking a little bit, a hybrid of everything. So what are your clients' attitudes about actually using that kitchen and being at home more? Or do you think that they're racing to get back out to eat? So I want everybody to answer this question. Ari, let's begin with you.
So for me, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was obviously, like all of you, working virtually to still help clients during consultations. And the first thing that I would jump to was to the dining room, because that's a room that's real pretty, but it typically doesn't get used a lot, especially when you're not entertaining. I mean, I don't think you and your 2 kids and husband are pulling out the fine china at night and eating in the dining room. So my jump was, let's use that existing space for the home work office area, the kids work office area. It typically is a dedicated room. There are storage pieces already there, and we can use that as a flex space to convert it to a workspace and then have a way to put things away so that we mentally shut the day off. That was really big and important for me. And I think that philosophy is kind of how we think about how we are designing the home office. You know, can it be a flex space? Number one. Will you be working home? Some people, like for example, my husband, his job is now permanently virtual. So he will always need a home office, even though technically some of the people at his place of work are going back. I think most people will still need that home office. I'm always the advocate for making it a flex space if you don't have to work there 5 days a week. And then similarly to the kitchen, you know, for us, again, thinking about the first few months of the pandemic, what was really important to us that we know about kitchens is that you have to have landing zones. And we thought those were just for prepping the food. But when we had to learn the video about how to wash and wipe off the groceries and not contaminate them on one side and have the space to move them to the other, I think about that all the time, because I'm thinking about how our landing zones and our prep spaces can also help us if we don't have a room dedicated to hygiene to, you know, make sure that things are clean when they come into our home. So some of that training and some of those traumatic experiences are also the things I think about when we're designing the kitchens and the offices in our homes today.
Okay, DuVäl, next.
As far as home offices, to be completely honest, I feel like the backdrops are a concern for clients. Everybody's doing webinars, everybody's doing Zoom. So having a cute little backdrop is what they're concerned about, which they'll not tell you that, but it's true. And then for our clients, we're keeping a lot of people out. Thankfully, we don't have to turn a lot of these into flex spaces because they have the extra space in the house. So for these, we're designating them to the as offices and to stay as an office. But as far as kitchens go, I think Ari, she nailed it for me.
Okay, Regan.
So I actually find the home office to be an interesting space right now. I think that people really wanted it at the beginning of the pandemic, but they realized they worked from a quiet, comfortable space more than they sat at their desk. And so what I'm seeing they need is really just storage for actual work and computer, like a place for your printer, a place for your files, a place where you store pens, and then separate of that, sort of a space that's designated a nice comfy chair, a little occasional table for some coffee, where they can be out on a balcony, and that's where they're actually working from. So I see people leaning away from the traditional office because they're ready to have that separation of space. I know we're talking kitchen and all sorts of spaces, but I also think the bathroom and cleanliness has been a big soul reset for me, even personally. And so I'm seeing a lot of people want more luxurious space and clean, crisp lines in their bathrooms, because it was where we both relaxed, but also hygiene was a big part of just keeping ourselves healthy and safe. And so I've seen a lot of attention there as well.
Right. And I suppose it is true with technology being wireless. In mobile, you can take it anywhere, really. So it doesn't have to be in a room. It can be on your living room sofa, or outdoors, even better, right?
Exactly.
I never understand how you California people get anything done, because if I were, every time I'm in LA, it's just like the last thing I want to do is work. You guys have better willpower than I have. Andre.
So for me, I'm gonna have to agree with everyone before me. Home offices definitely was one of the focuses, but during the pandemic, everything for me shifted over to the kitchen. And mainly because I've had clients that have children that are homeschooling now and not in, not busing them to schools every day. And so the breakfast area has become a staple of the gathering spot in the kitchen for them. The kids do the homework while mom is cooking. Dad comes home. The first thing he wants to do is sit at the island and, complain about his day. And everything seems to start happening there now. And even when the mom is working from home, she's in the kitchen. She likes to sit at where she's near food and snacks. So she's able to just, go and, feed or drink or whatever she needs to do from the kitchen. So I've had a lot of kitchen renovations during the pandemic, and it's been quite life-changing for a lot of them and for myself as well. I find myself being in the kitchen majority of the time because there's sit, eat, lounge all in one space. Now I actively work in my dining room when I'm not at the office because it is, like you said, a flex space. And I love working in my dining room. And also my assistant and my project manager, they all love working in my dining room too. There's lots of light, relaxation. And again, taking it back to the kitchen, it's literally right there. So yeah, I would definitely say it's been the dining room for me. It's been a big staple during this pandemic in terms of getting things done for a family.
Okay. How has architecture changed over the past year, specifically when it comes to, again, that client, that homeowner engagement, maybe where before they were just interested in an aesthetic facelift, and then now they're talking about doing actual renovation, tear downs, gut jobs, new builds, all of those things. Are there any trends that you have seen, or positives or negatives that you've seen as far as your job from a design perspective for things that people want or don't want anymore, as it comes to actual structural and architectural changes versus just aesthetic redos?
I'll jump in on that one. For sure, new builds, we're seeing powder rooms being more accessible to the entryway. Sometimes some powder rooms are pushed out further so that people can, if they need to use it and get clean or washed up, it's a lot quicker to access versus going through the entire house. I am also noticing that the foyers are coming back into play versus an open door and a completely open house, just kind of stopping, your guest or, a visitor in a certain space so that you can take any precautions that you might need and separate them from the kids or other family members or the elderly or whomever, so that you don't spread anything that way. I feel like that's an architectural change that, open floor plans were huge and they're still huge. But I think people are being more mindful on compartmentalizing a little bit more so that you can contain any type of issues that you may be concerned with health-wise. I think that's one thing to start.
And I can totally back on that, if that's okay with you, Carissa. I think you were talking about the foyer, and one of the spaces that I'm really seeing, especially in LA, we didn't really do mud rooms. We don't have the snow gear that's everywhere else, but we need an Amazon package area. Like literally all of my clients, whether it is that foyer or there needs to be a dedicated space where people can enter your home, leave something comfortably, and then you can go and receive it. And so these are becoming new points of entry that are thought out. I'm seeing people do sheds, all sorts of different things, but that interaction with home and the delivery system is really an integrated part now of everyday life.
That is
actually
that's true. Delivery has become such a staple in the way that we consume goods. So that's important. And I'm going to take Regan's that note of delivery to talk about sourcing, because we certainly have been reliant on Amazon and all delivery services to bring us goods over the last year. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. But let's talk about what you all are doing in the design world and sourcing, because I know that has been such a challenge over the past year and continues to be. And I know that those clients can get a little antsy waiting for, their homes to look beautiful. So can each of you, Andre, let's start with you, provide an example of a challenge that you've had in the last year where you've maybe had to reselect a piece for a room for your client. Let's talk about how the client has handled that, if you even let the client know that that was happening. And lastly, and we'll go through this. This is like wedding vows, right? It's hard to remember everything when they draw it out together. But also, how are you educating the clients about, you know, this is a great opportunity to educate clients about how long things take, even when it's not a pandemic, even when there's not a shortage, because to get that quality merchandise, as one of you mentioned, you know, already, some clients want things right now. And we all know for those really artisanal pieces that time is a part of the beauty. That's one of the ingredients, if you will. And so how has this been an opportunity to communicate with clients? Tell me about a situation where you've had to reselect, respecify. Andre, I'm throwing it over to you.
Alrighty. So I've had a lot of these instances happen over the pandemic, and I've navigated them pretty smoothly now that I know exactly that I had to go back to the drawing board and come up with a whole new ball of resources. Luckily for me, there are so many consignment stores that have amazing products here in Atlanta, such as Westside Market and 14th Street Antiques, and Antiques and Beyond. And so it's been my go-to for situations like this. First, when I go into projects now, I do make a disclaimer, you know, that we are in the middle of a pandemic still. Deliveries have been pushed back. Designers are waiting. Actually, like extraordinary time lengths just for one piece of furniture. So as an example, I had a sofa that we ordered and it was scheduled to be to us in 4 weeks. And they called us and said, hey, you know, we won't be able to get this back to you until 6 months. So I've gone to 14th Street Antiques, who I know have, you know, they have the caliber of furniture that this client needs, went there, sourced. They had so many different things to choose from. I asked my client up front, you know, are you open to purchasing off the floor? It will be a little bit more, however, you will have it as soon as you need it. And she was like, you know, yeah, sure, no problem. At this point, everything's coming late. What can we do to make things just speed up the process? So going to places like that, sourcing your nearest consignment stores and local furniture stores that, you know, will give, you know, help designers get things done is priority right now for me and for most of my clients. And it's just been a wonderful journey. It's been crazy, but we've definitely found the solution for it.
DuVäl.
As far as, well, actually, same thing. A sofa is, we ordered in October, and now they're giving us a delivery date of this coming November. And so it has been a very big hassle. We've been having to try to reselect the different pieces, and we've changed it, and it still seems like, I don't know if this one file is just keep getting messed up, but thankfully we have a ton of different vendors on our registry. So we have a lot of sources that we can go to with still good quality. So we make it a point not to just work with one or two vendors just because of situations like this. Just like Andre said, I have been very clear up front when the client talks to us before we even get into contract. These are our expectations. Are you willing to meet those? We also put these into our contracts now where it talks about COVID-19, back orders, delays, like we're not responsible for those. I cannot, you know, change timelines. And at the end of the day, clients are responsible for our time for reselection. So at this point, it's more of an education. But as far as the things that we're dealing with right now, it's a bunch of apologies. It's a bunch of keeping in front of them, you know, weekly updates where we used to not do that. I'm now just letting them know, okay, here, this is what we did. Here's who we reached out to. This is what we're doing. This is our next expectation. I think a lot of communication with the client has been ideal for them to kind of settle their just anxiety. But other than that, the best thing I can do is moving forward, just better educate the client in contract, in writing, and verbally, and then reaffirm it along through the process. The best we can do.
Great. Ari?
I definitely piggyback off what my two friends said. It is absolutely about communication. I think it was much harder in the beginning when we had taken someone's money and then learned what the pandemic was going to do with our timelines. That was not a fun conversation. But now walking into new projects, it is absolutely a data point. And here's the great thing about it. I think there are two opportunities for value here. One, we're having conversations, we're educating people about, you know, some of the challenges that we're experiencing, and we're talking about our value in the fact that we have a Rolodex of vendors that we can go to, and we have relationships. So when I call and say, hey, what's going on with my sofa? Someone knows my name, because I've gone to market and I've met them and I've had coffee with them, and you know, they will take care of me as much as they can. That is a very different experience than you walking into a real retail store, giving them your money, and then you keep getting an email that says, not this October, 2022 October. Like that's our value, is that we're going to help be the liaison for you, and we will pivot if we need to, but we're also going to lean on our relationships with our vendors to get you the best product. The second thing is we're having conversations at the beginning about the opportunity to do custom and bespoke pieces. When I tried to put that on the table before, people were like, 30 weeks, I would like the pre-made option for 4. Now it's like, you got 30 weeks either way. So can we talk about something that's made just for you? So those are the two opportunities we see coming out of this. I think it's all about framing. You know, the optimist in me is like, what's the silver lining? That's my silver lining, because it's a lot of bad, but that's the way I'm choosing to look at it, is the opportunity to talk to clients about all of their options and to talk about how we are their A team, and we're bringing value in their support and advocacy, you know, to get the products to them.
Great. So it's really been an opportunity for the clients, your homeowners, to witness you problem solve.
Yes.
So before, they may not have,
yes.
There may not be any problem.
No, we're the Avengers. 4 of us, we're the Avengers. How many people have not realized the world is literally about to blow up? They're drinking their coffee. The Avengers are the ones going, let me stop the comments. That's us. They will just see it now.
I'm totally getting the same thing. Like, custom was a word that scared clients before because they thought it meant more expensive and more time. Now custom means I can get it to you now and it'll be exactly what you want. And they're hearing that now, so you can have more fun with those pieces. And I also like the sustainability of sourcing locally, like Andre, and also rehabbing life into a piece that might be the wrong color or the wrong tone, and giving it some new hardware. It's a way to keep our furnishing sustainable as well. So I've been doing a lot of that sort of customization on antique pieces. But I have a client right now who has 3 of my personal dining chairs on loan because she wanted to wait, and I wanted her to wait for ones that just weren't going to come for like 2 months. And I was like, you know what? I've got 3 extra at the office, just keep them. I know you and the family need to move in and have a functional space, but we pictured this space with those chairs, so let's just wait. So yeah, we get creative.
Okay, great. All of you have kind of talked about, you know, again, waiting for those custom bespoke pieces. Andre, you mentioned even a client who bought right off the floor, and you made the comment that it would cost a little more and they were willing to do that. Because people have not been traveling, not been eating out over the last year, and have maybe been saving some money that they would have spent otherwise, have you seen that affect the budgets that they have? And how so? You a couple of you talked about some bespoke pieces, but can anybody else give me an example of maybe how the budget, or more of a budget, has led to an opportunity for you all to spread your design wings and do what maybe they wouldn't have allowed you to do before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. During one of my most recent projects, I had a client whose budget actually jumped because of the pandemic, because she wasn't out shopping all the time. She was a shopaholic. And I got to put a lot of my creative juices together to work as a designer, and something that I've always wanted to do. Every now and then I would get that good project where I could design a custom piece for a client. But this project gave all the works and all the opportunity where I was able to design a custom king bed, a day bed, a dining table. I mean, I went all out during this project, and she gave me full creative freedom to do so. And I think it was more so an opportunity for her to learn herself in the process, and to understand, you know, that I can also convince her that she was nowhere to be found in the store, that only I, as her designer, that she could trust to take her and put her in form of a furniture. Yeah, and so I actually did that. She loved every piece, and it was an amazing journey for me. And it was a light bulb for me, because at this point now I'm looking forward to starting a furniture line in the future. And now that I know that I can do that, and that I have had the opportunities to show myself and to show my clients, and to see the love that they have for those pieces, is a reflection of, me knowing that that opportunity is there for me and that I should definitely take it.
Wonderful. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
DuVäl, do it, or who wants
Sure.
to?
Sure. Andre, congratulations. Please go through with it.
Thank you.
You got this. Yeah, I mean, the budgets we're talking about, right? Budgets have definitely skyrocketed, and we saw that we even raised our minimum over the last year just because we were able to keep scaling up. And so we have minimum project sizes to take. One, because the clients were willing to pay for it, and they were very upfront. Oh, we're not going on this vacation. We're not being able to do this. We were going to go here. We were going to get this second home, and all of these things that they were just out front telling us. And they were like, well, let's just put it into this house. And we have some clients where they know that they're going to be working from home a lot more. They're going to be staying home. Some have actually even pulled their kids out into out of public schools. And so they're working from home, and so they want to renovate the spaces that they're going to be in constantly. And so we're here to give them exactly what they're asking for, and we're not blinking an eye. We're just going to keep it moving.
Great. Bregan and Ari, we've talked now sort of about the big building and some of those key pieces, the big sofa and things like that. I want to sort of talk about sourcing smaller things now. And you all have mentioned, maybe sourcing from antiques. Has this, I think, in general, the antiques market has maybe been a bit on the decline in recent years because millennials don't want to wait and people want things right now or don't have the vision to know how to alter something, an older vintage piece. Has the lack of new things, new items that are available amplified the antiques and how you're sourcing from those? And then let's talk a little bit about makers and small batch artists and opportunities for them. Bregan, let's start with you and get your thoughts on that first.
Of course. I think grand millennial design is something that was coined at the beginning of the year. And I also think that with social media and all these DIYers, that people are seeing you can breathe life into new pieces. And we're giving away all the tips, even myself. Switch out the hardware, use these paints, this works, sand first. So I do think that customization to antiques is important. I also think as small business owners, and also a lot of my clients are entrepreneurs, there's been sort of this fear of where the world is headed. And so as much as I've experienced the same thing where people want to spend more, I've also had the experience where people are wanting to save because the future feels a little less uncertain, or they have really large overheads, or they think because we're in this moment that it means they can save a lot of money, which I find just interesting and a challenge to push myself creatively. It's a complete, contrast of having that project where you have all the budget in the world and you get to learn. And Andre, they're amazing experiences. And I've had one over the last year, but there's also the clients where they're like, this is our budget. We expect beautiful, that pushes you as a designer that much more, especially when it comes to taking antique pieces and reliving life into them and adding customized wood paneling that makes it just drip looking like $1 million, but it's not, So I've had a lot of fun with that in this process.
Okay. And Ari?
Yeah, one of my favorite places at High Point Market is the Antiques District. I love to explore. I found some fantastic chairs that I just did not even have a project or place for, that I just knew were coming home for me until I realized it would cost more to ship them to me than I actually paid for the chairs. I'm a little heartbroken on that, but I love exploring and thinking about the ways that I can either bring them in to add layers and texture and drama to a space, or reimagine them so that they fit the theme of the client's home. I also have always told my clients, let me shop your house first. Let me shop your mom's house. Whoever is going to give you things, let me see it first, because you might be sleeping on some potential. and we can use it. We can bring it in. And here's the thing about it. It brings good feelings. It has emotions attached to it. There's nostalgia to it. I think about my grandmother's formal living room, which up until last year still had the shrink wrap around her furniture pieces because it was so precious to her, right? And she's got all this great furniture, and I'm like, if I could just get my hands on it. But guess what? It's well preserved because she just did not want, you know, it was just from that old school mentality of keeping everything very well protected because it was a big investment. So a lot of people, a lot of young people can look back to earlier generations and see that the things that were being made then were really well constructed, sometimes better constructed than the things that you can find, you know, retail today. And there's potential there. So I love starting there to see what you have and how we can make it your own. I also think I'm starting to talk about, you know, in the context of sustainability, as Brigham talked about, the life cycle of something and how every time we touch it, we are either extending its life or we are starting its life. So if we buy a sofa today, we are at the beginning of the life. Are we buying well enough that where our kids and grandkids could use that sofa? Are we the start of that generational legacy of that piece? So as we talk about pieces to bring into our clients' homes, I always want to think about the legacy of that piece. And that helps me educate the client on how much or how little to invest in that piece, where we source it, whether it's an antique that we're going to extend life to, or it's something new that we're going to bring into the story of our family's furniture lineage.
Great. What are some of the key categories that you see? Now we can sort of, we kind of get tired of talking about pandemic at this point, right? It's like kind of consumes all of us in every conversation. So pandemic aside, what do you all see as being some of those like hot accessories that your clients want from a trend perspective, or we don't like the word trend at traditional home, but objects that you want to have kind of that clients are asking for? Do you see any trends, movements in colors and textures? I would like all of you to answer this and kind of tell me where you're finding these things. If it's not in a traditional showroom, and we know that people maybe aren't traveling quite so much as they were before, what are some of your secret sources, if you'll share them?
I can jump in. I really think that people are looking for items that look like found objects. They want those travel pieces. I think there's been an appreciation this year for culture and different cultures. And so people are leaning into just little objects that grab their attention and maybe feel like you traveled somewhere far and wide to bring it into your home. One of the great places in Venice to start for that is like we have all those crystal shops with all these stones and kind of really interesting things from Egypt. And so I can always go in there and get something just dynamic to put on the top of a set of books. I love adding crystals in as a rock and nature element, but it's also sparkly and pretty, which is always Brig and Jane.
Okay.
I want to piggyback on that. I think global design is absolutely in right now. It's in every vendor is offering that. We saw that at market, this past market, the market before. It's coming in pattern and texture. We're seeing a lot more rougher hues on things. I'm very excited about that. And other than the objects like Regan was talking about, I think people are taking more risks on their furniture, whether they're putting a velvet and a suede back on things. Obviously, boucle is like massively in right now, but they're taking chances and just staying away from the simple linens and the simple cotton polyester looks that have been out and just kind of dominated the industry. And they're taking chances on color, which I'm very excited about as well.
Andre,
say that.
Oh, go. No, Ari, go ahead. We'll get Andre, I promise.
Hey, Andre.
we have time. We have time for everybody.
I was going to say unapologetic use of color. That's the thing that I think people are tiptoeing into, that I'm like, let's go. I want us to use color. I want us to embrace color. I want us to live like there's no tomorrow. Like, let's not be neutral if we just feel like that's the safest way to go, unless you just happen to love neutral. Like, let's embrace color. So adding color to projects has been great. Also, I feel like the found object absolutely is huge in finding sources to have that creative mix of textures and different finishes that we bring into our accessories. But art is something that people, as they grow in understanding that their home is kind of a reflection of their personal brand, being able to help them find a favorite artist or someone who speaks to them, or even telling them we can have a local artist create an original piece for you using the colors and textures you love. Like that to me is the most exciting opportunity and it's not a trend, but it's just kind of, I guess, a category that sometimes people will not dedicate enough resources to. They're shocked at how much it costs to get really great art, or even how much it costs to accessorize a space. You know, when you add up the number of pieces, it does take a bit of money. So not a trend, but just those two categories I feel like are the ones that we can actually help educate people on how important they are to the completion of the room.
Well, and when it comes to art, people are also shocked when they see the stickers of how much it costs to frame art.
Hello. Yes, that too.
Right.
Sometimes that's why most are floating canvases. But I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like, okay, you know, but hey, we got the art, and you can always go and take it to get it framed later. Absolutely. If that's the sticker shock. So you're right about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Andre, it's your turn. Oh, you're on mute.
All right, we're back. Can we restate the question real quick? I got cut off right when the question was asked.
What was my question?
It was about trend categories. What we're bringing in.
Yeah, it was about trends and like the small things that people want that we're bringing into the home. Like, what are they interested in from a trend, or like I said, we don't like the word trend at traditional homes. So from a movement perspective, things that people are grasping onto.
Okay, so in terms of trends that I think people are probably doing away with is probably the color usage of gray and neutrals. When I first started my business about 8 years ago, it seemed like every project I did, everyone wanted neutral. It was just a thing at the time. And that thing has flown, thankfully. I'm now seeing clients that, like I said, want to be, as I already said, unapologetic use of color, which has been great for me. You know, it's allowed me to flourish as a designer and, you know, play with a lot of different, you know, color palettes that I probably would have ever thought, you know, really existed. It's been fun. It's been a journey in terms of things that people are starting to want to pay attention more to in their homes. Artwork is definitely something that has been a transitional element in homes that I've been working on recently. Before, everyone, you know, they wanted giclées, you know, art pieces that are on canvas, that are more so printed. You know, people were concerned about cost of custom artwork, and now the thing is to have those custom pieces of art that really tell a story and really mean something. People are starting to see that those are, you know, long-term investments rather than just making it look nice for the moment. And so that has been a wonderful experience, being able to source galleries and, you know, call on local artists. There's one kid, his name is Joe Turner out of Birmingham, Alabama, 19 years old, absolutely phenomenal. Would you ever think a young kid could paint like this? And brought him in and said, hey, you know, I have clientele that's dying to have you right now, you know. And so I've been using him as one of my sources for bringing custom art pieces and as a reflection to my clients in their home.
Great. Okay, so we have three more questions before we get to our last little fun round of questions. Something that Ari brought up at the very beginning, because you're a Southern gal, and I know that entertaining is such a big component of the Southern lifestyle. But I really think it's become that for everybody. And again, the word entertaining can be a little intimidating to people, a little scary to people, because I don't know, they think White House state dinner, and that's what most of us are not doing on a nightly basis. But it is, of course, it's fun to socialize with friends and family and have people over and gather and whatever terminology you use for that. And I know entertaining is huge at traditional home. And I know that the tabletop industry has just skyrocketed over the last year, because all of a sudden people didn't want mismatched mugs anymore and mismatched plates. And so they're buying, even though they weren't having people over because that was not safe to do so, for their family, they wanted to create a beautiful dining environment every night. So how do you see that? I would hate if that were a temporary trend, because I love those moments of just sitting down and being on pause and celebrating life with people. But how has that woven its way into what your clients are asking for, entertaining, gathering. Bregan mentioned the indoor-outdoor space that California life allots. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that has been a category where people could, to some degree, have instant gratification and order new plates or order new glassware. So Bregan, let's start with you.
Well, I actually did a whole article on this once, because I basically have a party in the box in my garage. I got a bunch of the large sort of heated catering plates, and then I kind of have a place I always order from. And it's great because when you have that set aside in one area, you actually go through it, you curate it. It's something that I can bring out without the stress of entertaining, because I use the same things every time. I also think that there's a lot of options in terms of recyclable products that are maybe paper or organic plates that look decent now, where as a designer, it so hurts my heart. As a mom, I'm like, you know what? This is about gathering and making your life a functional space that's going to work for you and make you feel good. If you are stressing over the dishes at the end of the night, that wasn't what we intended to create out of this moment. So let the perfect go. That's what the mom side says of me, and just curate a to-go sort of situation that you can set up time and time again. So you have to take the thought and the stress out of it.
Okay. I want to hear from our Southern girl last on this one. So Andre, you're next.
So for me, my clients now use a dining room a lot more than what they used to. So making sure that seating, one, is always a priority with my clients. Now that they're there, most often, most people don't pay attention to comfortability of the seating at the table. Making sure that it is, wide enough to fit. We're in the South, so let's just say we got a lot of wide bottoms here. So you want to make sure that the seating at the table is sufficient and is sturdy enough to hold in just about anybody. Also, one of the things in the dining room, people like a lot more of an intimate setting here. I don't know why that is in the South. I know I've seen a lot of bright white dining rooms, especially in New York, up north and in LA, but here in the South, everyone loves an intimate setting. So I like to use cool colors and warm colors, such as like midnight blues and, burgundies and things of that nature, just to bring in like a sense of comfort and coziness that people can, talk over and enjoy a dinner, looking at one another and having conversations. And things don't always have to just seem so light and airy. They can be really cozy and comfortable. So that's been really important for a lot of my clients.
Okay, DuVäl.
I don't really have an answer for the tabletops that you were talking about. I am not Bregan Jane, but I'm going to have to get on that bandwagon because that was brilliant, first off. So let's make sure let's all pay attention to that. Secondly, for us, if we're just thinking about dining rooms in particular, and even jumping on what Andre said about the seating, it's not a matter of just sitting there for an hour. Sometimes it's 2 hours and 3 hours, and 4 hours. And when it's a great dinner, you want that chair to be comfortable and you're not feeling the frame of the base of it. But another thing that we're also thinking about too are those built-in Bluetooth speakers, so that you have the ambiance kind of set also with sound and not just with the materials.
Okay. Ari, tell me about entertaining and how that, because I know, again, it was something that people couldn't do with outside the family members, but all of a sudden they were spending more family time together, which is a lovely silver lining piece that's happened because of the pandemic. So how has that changed or enhanced the situation that we know that the South is so famous for?
Yeah, well, I think we were very emotionally just traumatized by the ability to not meet, because that's such a part of our experience, whether it's tailgating in the fall for, football and sports, or it's, doing barbecues in the summer, or it's, big gathering for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like, that is such a part of our culture that it was really hard to not be able to do that. And it really impacted a lot of us emotionally to not be able to gather. So we are looking forward to blowing it out this fall and getting back. And I think it's just going to be returned to that love for many of us in the South, where we have been known to really do it up and be formal with the doilies and the name cards. for most of us, entertaining is very informal and it is sprawled throughout the entire house. So I think about everything from on the lower level, you know, from the dining room to the living room, breakfast room, and even outside. It's got to be performance fabric. It's got to have somewhere to rest a plate or a drink, because people are all over, not just in one area. And that's just how it is. You know, we'll set up a buffet. I want the party in the box, by the way, but everybody, you know, makes their plate. You know, somebody's making some drinks, and then we are sitting and talking and gathering, and there's a conversation here, there, the kids are over there. That's what entertaining looks like for most of us. The dining room is where the adults and elders and people who have prominence in our families get to sit first, because those are the seats that are most comfortable and the table is properly set for eating. And what I find is the dining room quickly transforms from eating to game. So it might be spades, it might be dominoes, it might be a board game. And just like DuVäl said, it's going to be a 3-hour sit in that chair. So because I know that's our experience, I am thinking about all of that when I help the client select the right products for those rooms, because I know that it could be where we're eating dinner at one minute, where we're watching TV the next, where we're playing a board game the next, and helping the client think through those and making the right selections is kind of what we do. So that's what entertaining looks like for most of us.
Okay. Yeah. I just know that category has been so hot in the last year. And again, people couldn't have people who are outside the family into their homes, but I know that they wanted to, you know, create something special. If they're all going to be stuck together for every meal.
Can I say one more thing to that, about the table? Sorry, because the tabletop, I think that, yes, the conversation about the actual place settings and tabletops, whether it's disposable or something that we invested in, has been an easier sell for clients. And here's why I think that happens. It's because, yes, we've kind of bought into the live every day at your best, enjoy the real plates when you can moment, but people also know when they're gathering that somebody is taking pictures. And subconsciously, we want that Instagram photo that says, look what my auntie made for dinner. We want it to be on a plate that's not chipped and that looks good. And I think that's just a part of, and it's okay. We can have those little things that are a little bit superficial, but I think that's part of why that whole presentation, as you know, the extension to how we design the kitchen and dining room, makes sense for the homeowner. Let's complete it. And let's talk about, yes, when you're eating there, do you want this wonderful, you know, custom designed dining room, but then paper plates? No, we want the whole experience. And so that's why I think that category is taking the uptick that it is.
I agree. And I think that the table is, you know, it's a relatively small canvas, if you will. And if you don't like the picture that's been painted one night, you can paint a different picture the next night, because it's all mobile and removable. So my final question is this: all of those typical spots that we know are inspirational, whether it be a great hotel and a restaurant, a travel destination, trade shows, all of those things have been on pause for the last year. And you know, the go-to question for designers is, where do you draw your inspiration? And I hate that question because everybody says the same thing. And so I don't ask that question, but what I like to do is flip that question upside down and not ask where you draw your inspiration, but as we end this panel, how do you want to inspire? What do you want others to draw from you? So I don't know who wants to start first.
I think I want to inspire people. Let me just get out of the way, because some of y'all might have some really good answers and I don't want to follow you. What I would like people to be inspired by is my enthusiasm for the possibilities and my desire to have a space feel like me. I want it to be warm and approachable, but sophisticated. And I don't want that to be influenced by what I think others will think about it. I want people to be inspired to really have the courage to make choices or trust a designer who's going to lead them to explore choices that are truly a reflection of who they are. It is so touching to hear Andre talk about a client and for him to say, the stores don't have you in it. Let me help you find you. That's it. That's the goal. That's the mission. That's the dream. And so that would be what I would want people to be inspired by, is the courage to be you, be authentically you, and have a space that represents who you are.
I'll jump in on that too. First off, I find inspiration from the ABA, Ari, Bregan, and Andre. That's where we all should start.
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Okay, let's go with that first. As far as like what I want to inspire people with, is two things probably. Is one, that design can be sensible and it can be effortless and it can still be beautiful. And I don't like to lose function and practicality and being pragmatic in an effort to get an aesthetic. I just don't think I have to compromise it. And so that's the first thing I think. And I think that I want to inspire people that the next level in your space and in your life can be elevated by designers. We can take you to that next spot. We can put you in that next position when we create a surrounding in which you can grow in that space, and that space can take you to where you were not thinking you could go. The space is encouraging you to be inspired and to elevate your own mind. I think that as designers, we can really set people up to get to the next space that they didn't think they could get to.
Okay, Andre.
Sorry, I don't know why my screen keeps messing up. But no, how I like to be an inspiration to my clients or just other people in general. I always try to inspire my clients to be fearless, to take risk, all the things that I think I was afraid to do in my younger years prior to becoming a designer, and taking things that I learned and, kind of giving it to them and saying, hey, you can do this. You can have a place of your wildest imaginations and dreams. As long as it's you and it's comfortable and it is functional for you, then by all means, you go for it. A lot of times I have clients that, we go over ideas and you don't think that would be too much? Or I like this, but I'm afraid to do it. And I hear that so much. And I often say, let your first mind lead you. That's your intuition. I think everyone has, telling you that you love something. So go after it. But then you make sure you use a designer, because we are the ones that make sure it comes together seamlessly. And we are going to make sure that it's a reflection of you. Thank you for mentioning that. That is our main goal, is to make sure that that everything that goes into a space reflects a client. So don't be afraid to take risk. Let your mind lead you, and then trust your designer to make sure that we get you there.
Okay, and Bregan.
I think being an interior designer is interesting because it used to be sort of that thing that people thought was something that only luxury could afford you and lifestyles of the rich and famous. And I think now that we've all spent more time at home, I always like to say our three basic needs are food, water, and shelter. And your shelter is a basic need, and it's the space that holds us emotionally. And all of us want to feel loved and safe. And at the end of the day, that's what our home should do. And that's what I aspire to do with my clients.
Well, and people want to feel comfortable always as well. And that's what home provides, no matter what your home is or where you are. It's nice to have a comfortable spot. We do have some questions, so I want to make sure that we answer those for people. So I'm just going to throw these out. What wood finishes for furniture do you see requested most frequently?
I'm seeing a callback to their natural state. People are wanting natural woods, carved woods, reclaimed woods. They want that organic feel.
I would agree. Depending on the style, lighter finishes, maybe some oaks, but I think the main theme is just kind of more of a matte, low sheen, or natural finish on the woods that we're calling in. And then the species or the tone of it is really going to be dictated on the color palette that we've created for the space.
Right. For me, I've been getting a lot of the natural finishes as well. But I've also been getting a lot of dark wood finishes. And a lot of clients are starting to love the Jacobins and the dark walnuts. And so between the two of those, I think that's where everything is starting to fall right now. And I really can appreciate it all.
Same. And I think that cut sewn wood is coming back as well.
Okay. Let's see. I'm getting a question about what types of requests do you receive for garden decoration or anything that goes outside? So I think this sort of speaks to that outdoor living that everybody wants. We all want to be outside as much as possible, right? And some regions allow us to do that and some regions not. So maybe if you could all address this from your specific region. That would be great.
Let me bow out of this one. I always remind clients I'm an interior designer, not exterior.
Okay. Okay.
So at this point, we actually refer out exterior work. We do help with exterior renderings, but I'm a bow out on this one.
I think it's really important, DuVäl, to have partners that support you. And I definitely love to bring in a landscaper when I'm doing exterior work because, yeah, my brain goes interior first and then exterior. Like, I don't really know how to keep plants alive, so I need to bring in somebody who can help you with that. And one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of faux grass being installed. It's drought tolerant here. It keeps that manicured look. There's a wide range in product and availability now. It's easier on kids. People want that manicured grass looking yard, but they don't want to have to take care of it. And it's also nice to a drought tolerant environment.
Can I ask questions? Let me jump in here because I have not heard about that. And I'm assuming that's a West Coast thing. Is that because you guys can have like your summer, winters are still bright and airy?
Yeah, I don't know. We do a lot of fake grass here and we install it on the front yards and then put some real plants next to it. And you can't really tell a difference on some of the really nice stuff. And you don't have to worry about sprinkler systems. And yeah, it's a big request here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what Bregan said, I've been seeing a lot of the faux grass being used primarily in the backyards and the front yards. I think people love the lush feel of nice green, perfect grass in the front yard, but the backyard, nobody wants the maintenance anymore. So they'd rather just take care of one rather than two. And it keeps costs down, especially in Georgia. It gets extremely hot here. And, irrigation systems are extremely costly, especially if you have a big yard. So to cut those costs in half, I have seen clients go to the turf in the backyard, and it's been great. Also, I do believe in having, someone to partner with in terms of a landscaper. Although I used to do landscape when I was a kid, my uncle owned a landscaping business. I still, like Brittany said, sometimes don't know how to keep things alive. My grass right now has a few burnt spots, but that's neither here nor there. But I do think that it's very important to have partners that help take care of a yard to make sure that it gives you exactly what you're looking for. During the pandemic, in terms of decor, outdoor decor, a lot of clients I found want that level of comfortability, but still excitement, because being inside all day, it can be dreadful sometimes. And when they come outside, they want to be like, oh, I'm outside. So lots of usage of colors and, patterns and, bright whites and cool blues have come into play in a lot of my outdoor projects, and umbrellas for shade and just little fun, plants here and there. They want to feel like they want to be in the zen, like an oasis in a way. And so people have been paying very, very close attention to that. And I find it quite helpful for their everyday, work days, especially after being in the house all day long, to be able to come outside and just woo-saw.
Okay, moving on. Somebody's asking about sourcing art for clients. How open are you to working with online galleries? And do you have a couple of criteria? If a couple people could maybe jump in on this one, and then I'll get a couple people on the next one just to save time.
I do.
Okay.
No, go first. I have a good one though, but
okay. So for me, we have a fantastic art gallery here in Baton Rouge that I've established a relationship with. And what they will do is they'll understand what our project needs are, and they will help me source their connections that are local artists internationally, online artists, because they have a deeper reach than I do. So they can be the specialist in that, and they can be who I lean on to get a broader understanding of my resources in terms of art. And that's, to me, much more effective than me looking online and trying to find artists. And I found that doing that, I am introduced to so many fantastic artists that I never would have found, because they know where to go to find great pockets of artists. And again, it could be someone here, it could be someone international, it could be a resource that they use online, but the store itself is local. So I can bring my project in, I can sit down, I can talk about what we've got going on color palette wise, and then they will support me on the art front.
So as a starter trick, I love to use photography as art. Either family photography blown up in black and white on a canvas is a great way to fill a wall. But I also like using the public library as a resource to print things. And you can actually request prints, and then it's usually a historic sort of photo of your town. I have great photos of Venice throughout my home. And I got them all from the Los Angeles Public Library archives. So I had to give that trick. And then Coco Gallery, if you guys have not used it yet, is something that really helps designers pair custom art for their clients, especially my client who wants like a painting of their kids. It's an affordable price point. So
Regan, can you spell that for people who are listening?
COCO Gallery, Coco Gallery. And she's got great affordable art that's customizable. And it's built for us designers.
Okay. And for DuVäl and Andre, what are you guys seeing as far as somebody's asking about kitchen trends? And that's always a hot topic, as we know. So do you have a few kitchen style or, you know, talking about design looks, faucets, cabinetry? Can you tackle that one?
Sure. For us, we're doing a lot more insets right now. So everything is inset cabinetry. We're, you know, the top drawer, we're doing flat slab fronts instead of having that, just giving a little bit more dimension to it. Two-tone kitchens are still in, three-tone kitchens are still in. Doing a perimeter, one color, and then doing the island countertops different, still in. I'm moving a little bit more away from the apron sinks, although we still have requests for those. I'm going back to those kind of like stainless steel commercial grade sinks at this point. We had a lot of clients asking us about those motion censored faucets so that they can not have to touch it, or they want to be a little bit more sanitary. And then right now, for me personally, I'm really into Cremon bolts, and I'm like trying to like push every client into that, and I'm obsessed with those. So that's what's going on several kitchens right now.
So for me, he just really took all of my good answers. But definitely 2- and 3-tone kitchens. I'm doing a 3-tone kitchen right now, 2 colors, a dark, a light, and then a wood mixed together. Clients, we started to see a bit more of the brass and black come into play in kitchens, which you haven't, you know, you're starting to see it as a small trend, but now it's becoming even bigger in terms of sustainability and being, you know, creating timeless designs. I myself, I love roll. I love so many different lines. Roll. I love Delta for my budget conscious clients. They have great lines, especially with polished nickel for roll and, you know, the chrome for Delta. I actually like Delta's Black Trinsic line. Amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing, and it looks just as good as the really expensive stuff, but but the function is amazing. And also in terms of kitchens, I'm starting to introduce my clients a lot to the waterfalls. I think they are a seamless way to keep from having to see the side of cabinets down the kitchens. And, you know, not only that, it's also a unique way to play with the marble, you know, create some timeless elements in the kitchen as well. Something very creative. Marble has been like just a crazy experience for everybody when it comes to kitchens now. You see it all over the place with timber and, you know, so many different marble companies that are being projected out to the world right now to see, you know, what kitchens can be made to look like. It's been a great journey working with them. And also, what else can I say about kitchens? Oh, in terms of trends, you don't really see a lot of those pendants hanging down over islands anymore. I've gotten used to using chandeliers, actually, going from, you know, 4 pendants going down the island to actually just 2, you know, probably about 24-inch chandeliers that actually make for a lot cleaner design, you know, something that is easy on the eye, and you have a whole bunch of things just hanging all over the place. Yeah. So it's been a pretty good journey with the kitchens these days. So.
Great. And Regan, we have a few people who are asking you to repeat that source again. So
I actually attached it in the link, so it's right in there, but it's Coco Gallery. And then check your local public libraries.
Okay.
It's got great artwork.
And final question has to do with breaking into the design business. How do you guys recommend that for somebody who maybe already has gone to college, isn't going to go back? Do you have any tried and true tips?
Yeah, I would definitely say breaking into the design industry, first, make sure that it's something that you really want to do. Make sure that it's a passion and not just a fad that, you know, think, oh, it looks like it's fun. It looks like it's exciting. I just want to do it because it looks great.
Yeah.
It's just something that I definitely, yeah, it's definitely something I would definitely say, make sure it's your passion, because if not, it will show. On the back end of things, once you realize that it's what you want to do, don't be afraid to pick up the phone or send an email to interior designers that are around and ask for help and ask for how, you know, different ways or internships and how to get into the design industry. Bring forward what you have to the table. Take pictures, you know, play in your own home. It helps a lot. It goes a long way in showing us, you know, what you're capable of and seeing that we can see the potential in what you have to offer. Every designer has not been to, you know, interior design school, but I definitely say, you know, get some type of formal teaching under your belt if you can. If not, like I said, some people have it. And some people, you know, just, you know, that's just a natural ability. And I myself went to school for architecture and not for interior design. However, you know, I just had it, you know, it was one of those things. I love fashion. I love patterns. I love textures and textiles. And I had mother and grandparents who, you know, love to decorate. So, you know, it just came natural for me. And I took from there and built on from there. And so, yeah, just follow your dreams and make sure you go after it, but make sure you create your own content. Take pictures at home. Make sure people can see what you can do. So that'll help definitely get you started.
I'll jump in too and say, please work for someone first if you can. If you cannot, I understand. And everyone cannot. But even if you put in a year of your time, 2 years, you will gain so much knowledge just learning from someone else on the mistakes that they've had and the things that they've learned from. You're so much better off as a designer, and you will grow exponentially. Like, I cannot express, if someone had told me that in advance, I would have worked under someone else and I'd be further along than where I am. You know, we're happy with where we are, but the knowledge from other people is so invaluable. And then lastly, if as Black designers, please reach out to BIDN. They are happy to put you onto someone else, put you onto a local designer who's going to be able to help and get you to the next level. Like Andre said, don't fear reaching out to someone.
Absolutely. I agree with Andre and DuVäl. I wish I had done an apprenticeship with someone. I fell into it accidentally. That was my journey. And, you know, I'm grateful for where I am, but he's right. Both of them are right in that there's a lot to learn. When people ask me that question, I always tell them, if you can get an apprenticeship, that is a great way to start, because here's what that does. You're establishing a mutually beneficial relationship. You're asking someone to pour into you, and you're pouring back into them with your time and what expertise you do have, your ability to be there as a resource. So it's mutually beneficial, but pay attention when you do that apprenticeship to the person who owns that company, whose name is on the door, and watch how much of their time is actually spent designing versus running a business. And then figure out whether you want to be a designer who just goes to work, or you want to be a business owner who spends 80% of their time doing the things it takes to run a business. And that's the thing I wish I had known, right? Because, you know, I think people knew that there's an option. You don't have to, as a designer, you don't have to have your name on the shingle. You can add value to someone's team. Absolutely. But that's what an apprenticeship allows you to do. It allows you to figure out what part of the design process you actually love and then learn more about that. But sometimes we fall into the trap of feeling like, okay, I'm going to be a designer. That means I'm going to own a business. And that is not necessarily true. And that might make something that could have been a passion for you something that you don't pursue, because it is hard work to own and run a business. So that's what I would say.
And Breegan,
I feel like everyone really hit what's important. I just want to say a call back to us as designers. We have to be willing to teach our teams. And I've been fortunate enough to have 2 designers go on and start their own business. And it's always a tough transition, especially when they were a part of building you. But I couldn't be prouder. And that's the goal as an employer, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with you,
I'm going
Breegan.
to add from the editor perspective is, I also think, and I can't remember which of you referenced this earlier, but you're not interior shoppers, you're interior designers. And I think, you know, I know at the magazine, we get a lot of projects that are really well shopped. They look great, and there's nothing wrong with that. but that is not interior design. They're two totally different things. And I don't want to say it's easy to go around and shop for great stuff all day, but that's not what interior design is. It's much more layered. It's about, yes, please.
Can I add to that? Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up because I was just bringing this up to someone else. We make a point on our own website to show clients a room that has nothing in it to a finished space. There's a difference between taking collective pieces that the client has and shopping for accessories. And there is an absolute market for that. And there are absolute clients for that. That is not what I offer. I offer from taking you 0 to 1,000. And I can show you that even with new product, we can create a home that's inviting, that's warm, that's casual, and still effortless. And that's what we provide. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. Yeah, because I think that's a very common thing. I think everybody wants to beautiful, and design is fun, right? So everybody wants to fancy themselves a designer and everybody wants to dabble a little bit, but you guys aren't dabblers.
Absolutely. I would definitely say that when it comes to interior design, and this conversation comes up so many times when I'm talking to other designers, and this is not a downplay to anyone who, you know, aspires to be a designer. You know, as of now, we always tell the client that there's a difference between a decorator and a designer. And that is designers, it's more psychological for us. We have to invade the client space and realize who they are to their core and be able to unfold that in a room in the most beautiful way that we know how. And that takes a lot. Like I said, I go into my clients' closets, I go through their clothes and figure out what type of colors they like, what type of fabrics they wear. You know, it all is a makeup of who they are. A lot of times people don't know that what you wear is the most comfortable part of you. And it shows, and it's your expression of who you are. And so many different ways that can be reflected in this space. And so like it is the psychology of it all and really understanding not only to make it look good, but also how it needs to function for them. You know, we ask those questions. What do you do for a living? How often do you entertain? How stressful are your days? So we understand what colors to use, what colors not to use, what depths of sofa furniture, sofas do we use, and making sure that it's not too petite because you want to lounge after you get off work. So we want to make sure that sofa is deep. It's not, short. So there's so many different things that go into it. And then not to even get to the details in terms of patterns and textures and oh gosh, what type of shade, what type of drapes to use, what type of shades to use, how do we marry things in the room so that everything works. So it's much more than what meets the eye.
Well, and as an editor, and I'm the outlier here because I'm not a designer, I will add, I think that the most important tool that you all have is not your set of eyes, but an open mind. And I think when, again, to whoever said it first, make sure it's something that you really want to do. It's not just shopping. It's not just finding fun things to put inside a house to make your kitchen look better, your powder bath look better. It's really, you all said it, it's psychological. It's attacking those five senses. It's being inspired by travel. It's opening your mind to the stop sign and why it's red and why it's designed that way and that shape. So it's about all of those things that contribute to the artistry of what an interior space or an exterior space is. It's not just about the hunt online for a new sofa or a new chair or a cool piece of artwork. That's just one tiny component of it. So I agree. Just because we get so many submissions, I think that the best thing is for it to be something that people understand is a business and something that you're really passionate for, because it's not all fun and games, is it?
No. Piggyback off to Ari, like that, knowing that it's a business just as much as it is creative. Listen, I wish I had learned, DuVäl, this is for you. I wish I had waited longer before I took leave from my internship. I did my internship for 6 months and I thought I had it all down pat. And jump ship, start everything up, and then the business really hit me. And it took me some getting past some mistakes and steps that I probably would have gained the knowledge of if I had stayed longer. So, and even I'm talking to my mentor, he always tells me, I wish you would have stayed longer. And I'm like, don't make me feel bad. But yeah, but between you and Ari, you guys hit it dead on the nail. And then also to what Bregan said about making sure that you teach your team. And I take that to heart, Bregan, because I had a young lady, her name is Christy Chanel. She was big part of Jordan Hilton Interiors. And one day she comes up to me, and I kind of always felt that coming, and she says, I don't want you to be mad at me, but I want to start my own business. And she just burst into tears. And I said, no, why are you crying? That's the best news I could ever hear, and I've been 100% supportive of her. And that's important too. We have to be supportive. It's not a competition. It is enough room at the table for all of us to eat. And the best thing I could see is the smile on her face from receiving that. And now she's got projects all over the place, probably more projects than I do. And I'm so proud of her.
Well, my assistant can hear y'all right now. My assistant can hear y'all. So let's not talk too loudly. You're all right, Sarah. You're okay. You don't need to go anywhere.
It's so true, though. I think the best lesson you can give is to always be a great teacher and always be a great mentor. And regardless of what your industry is, you have to be mentored by somebody. And I think in this business, sometimes the mentorship is far more important than any sort of formal training. So, I mean, you need the training too, but learning on the job, I think, is oftentimes more useful regardless of the industry that we're in. So, okay, guys, we're going to skip over my last part because we're way over, but I think that this last part was a much more useful part of the time. So thank you, Breegan, Ari, DuVäl, and Andre. I appreciate it. Thank you to the Black Interior Design Network and International Market Center. I wish everybody a back half of the summer, and great to have you all here. You guys had great answers, so thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
Traditional home.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So much fun, guys.